Okay, once again, February the 1st, 2024. This is part 2 of Recognizing Spirit's Vital Presence, class number 635. I'd like to start with, the reason I called it vital presence is because, they check your vitals. That means whether you are alive or dead. How are your vitals? Are they weak? Are they what have you? So spirit maintains the same level of life, the vitals, all the time. And so I want to start with talking about, I had a dream. It was Sunday night. And it's funny. All night long, deep into the morning, even when I had to get up and go to the restroom and then come back and get back in bed and fall asleep, the dream would just pick up where it was. And it was just like a voice just kept saying, it's already done. It's already done. So I'm saying, okay, already done. Already done. All night long I'm saying it's already done. I don't care whatever it is that appears to look like it needs to happen. It has already happened. It's already done. So then the next night I have this a dream, and it is Mark 11:22 through 25. It's like those have been some of my favorite scriptures since 1979. Have faith in God is verse 22. Verse 23 is, whosoever shall say to the mountain, be thou removed, be cast into the sea, does not doubt in his heart, but believe that the things that he says will come to pass, and he shall have whatsoever he says. And 24, 23 is speak to the mountain, and and be thou removed, be cast into the sea. He'll have what he says. 24 is what things soever you desire. When you pray, believe that you already have it, and you shall have it. And 25 is, if you hold aught against anybody or anything, forgive it. Let it go. That's the key. That's what it says. So I get up and I say, well, I'm not missing anything in some of these scriptures, so why is it that I'm constantly bombarded with these scriptures? And this thing came to me. Desire creates a state of receptivity. If you are constantly open to receive from God, you already have received because you are one with God. That's what was going on with me all this morning. I woke up at 4:44 this morning, and I have not been back to sleep since. It's just one with God. You are one with the Father. You are the same as. You are in one accord. All of that. Nothing changes. So I'm saying you are in a state of receptivity if you desire something. So then we say we're recognizing the Spirit, God's vital presence. What are you receptive to? And you're receptive to receive the Word of God, because that's the only thing that becomes something. The Word becomes flesh. The Word becomes form. But it becomes form in you, in your head, on the mental plane. So then when something happens out here in what we call the apparent world, the world of appearances, your response is vital. Meaning your response is going to be a response that's coming from life, or your response is going to be in line with the illusion. Because in Romans 8, you have been given choice as the sons of God. You must choose rightly. But to choose rightly means you must choose to think rightly. You must be thinking in line with how God thinks. As you say, well, my response is going to be, God within me doeth the works. Okay, let's just say that's your thought. Okay, that's right thinking. That's in line with God. So therefore, you're saying the government of my life is on his soul. So God is doing the work. I am the transparency that the light is flowing through. We talked about that last week. So your response is always going to be thought. Have you ever noticed that? No matter what. Just like I wake up at 4:44 this morning, and it's like, what is going on? Well, that's a response. That's a thought. So most people go throughout the day not paying any attention to their thoughts. They just let thoughts, look at that guy over there. He is da-da-da-da-da. Thought is just, and you just got all this foolishness going on in your head because you're choosing to let thought think itself. And so what comes is just that's pouring out. And those thoughts are causing you to not be in that state of receptivity for expecting God to think. So then you got a lot of people, expecting God to reveal truth, to give you a word. Faith is to be able to receive that which you expect. And what you expect is a word which becomes truth, which becomes, the form of truth. That's what I should have said. Some apparent form. But the form does not happen out here. The form happens in you, in your head. And once the form is done in your head, then you see it out here. Most people got it backwards. They're trying to see it out here first and then agree with it. That's what Jesus meant when he said you're looking for the fishes in the loaves. So now, if you are responding correctly, then you would know in your heart that the thing that I really want, the thing is an idea. That's all there is to it. Whatever it is that you think you want is an idea. And the more developed your consciousness is in spiritual things, you will start to realize the idea must be something that's deeply spiritual. In other words, I asked myself, you wrote it down, what do you want? What do you really want? And my answer was, I've been through all this stuff about things. I really want to glorify God in my body. That I really want to glorify God. Well, I got a lot of bodies. I got the body that's born. I got the body of a business. I got the body of vehicles. I've got the body of teaching, of sharing, the body of a family, my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandkids, my cousins, my brothers. Those are all bodies that I carry within me. I would love to glorify God in that. The body of my friends. So if I'm glorifying God, and it'll help you guys to further reading on this if you read John chapter 17. That is just really, really powerful. When Jesus prayed, Lord, don't take them out of this world. Keep them in this world. But, show them that they are one in us. That's just amazing to me. They are one in us. And not only for these that are here with me today, but for everybody. Okay? So, if that's what I want, then that means thinking right will glorify God. That means that's right-mindedness. If I'm thinking along the lines of exactly how God thinks, then that's right-mindedness. I'm glorifying God through that. I don't know what it looks like. I have no idea what it will look like. All I know is I feel it because my heart generates a feeling, and my mind is clear and it's still. Like right now, I ain't thinking no thoughts. None, because I'm totally focused on one thing, and that is glorifying God in my body in this sharing today. That's all I'm concerned with. I'm not thinking about anything outside of that. Now, let's look at some people who did not think about God in the right way. Remember the man which was at the pool of Bethesda? He was laying there, and Jesus walked up to him and said, will you be made whole? And that man said, I would, but, when the angel comes and stirs the water, somebody else gets in it before I do. So therefore, I can't get healed. That was the story, was when the angel came and stirred the water, the first one in the pool was the one that would get healed. Does that sound like God to you? I'm going to make all y'all compete. And so when the water gets stirred, if you get in there first, you it. But this man couldn't walk. So I heard a preacher say one day, well, then he should have crawled down there and just laid in the water. Well, how long is that going to how does he know when the angel is going to come and stir the water? So it's like Jesus said, will you be made whole? And he told Jesus that story. And Jesus looked at him and said, man, get up and go on about your business. And the man got up and went on, because Jesus knew there's no such thing as competition, and there's no such thing as a man laying there trying to get in water, and God is saying, oh, okay, I'm going to punish you one more day. I'm going to let somebody else get in before you. You're going to have to work for my love. That's not Bible. That's not love. God is love. That's how he was thinking. He had to be the first. Now let's look at the woman with the issue of blood. Look how she's thinking. You know what? If I could just touch his clothes, I'll be whole. That's her thought. It says, she said within herself. You ever say it within yourself? Like the little boy said, no, it was Kenny's grandson, Malachi. And he said, when I think inside my own, when I hear myself think inside my brain. That's it. When I think in line with God, when I awaken in thy likeness. The Bible is about you. It is not about some characters called Isaiah, called Jeremiah, called Moses. The Bible is about you. When you say, I am he, we'll get into that in the weeks to come, but that's what I was meditating since I said, well, it's 4:44, I can't sleep. I might as well lay here and think about God. And thoughts were just popping off like popcorn all over the place, and they weren't spiritual. So what I'm saying is all this stuff flying around, and I'm going, yeah, but the man said, I am he. The man said, I am the Lord, and I change not. These guys had to come into an understanding that they were one with God, which made them God. And they were thinking about it. And this woman with the issue of blood said, if I just touch it, she said within herself, if I can just touch his clothes, I'll be made whole. Isn't that something? She's thinking along the lines of, if I just touch his clothes. Now think about it. If that's what I think, and I say, if I just touch his clothes, I'm going to be whole, then that's it. Because she's realizing, I am he. I am this consciousness. I am oneness with God. I am the Lord, and I change not. Not some personality person called Michael, but I am. So now, you have to understand that your thoughts have to stay on that which is already done. That's not hard to do. It's really not. Let me tell you how easy it is. The principle of mathematics uses numbers to come up with an end result. So the principle of mathematics will use 2 times 2 is 4. It'll use 3 minus 0 is 3. But the principle is if there were no principle, you wouldn't be able to come up with 4. So the principle of mathematics will use all kinds of numbers to come up with an end result. The principle of life will use you and everything about you in order to glorify itself in you. The principle of mathematics is glorified every time the right answer comes up through a series of numbers, or the principle of grammar is glorified in the fact that I am, you are, he, she are, it is, we are, you are, they are. In other words, how to structure sentences, all that's a principle. Is that already done, or is that something that you have to do over and over again? No, it's done. It was done when you got here. That's it. It always was. Well, here's another one, and we'll talk about this again maybe next week. Like God said, Job, Job, where were you when I created the world? If Job had known something, he would have said, well, I was right there with you. But that ain't what Job couldn't answer. He ain't know. Where were you, Job, when I did this and when I did that? You know, it's like, if I'm one with God, where was I when God said, let there be light? Where was I? Was I somewhere back, I don't know, a gazillion years in the future, waiting for my mama and daddy to have me so that I could come into the world and be mixed up, shook up, confused, and all through the whole life, and then get to be real old and go, well, I went to church, man. You know, where was I? Was I with God when he created the world? Or, no, that's where I was. I was always. That's how Jesus could say, before the foundations of the world, I am. That's how he could say that. Before Moses, before Abraham. That's how Moses could say, I am the living God. If you look at it in the Aramaic text of the Bible, he says, I am the living God. There is no I am that I am. That's not what it says. That's King James in there. In the Aramaic text, it says, I am the living God. That's Moses. Who was up there with him? A burning tree? Where was that? That's something that was going on the inside of his head. In fact, the Aramaic, if you read Aramaic in some of the Rocco Erico stuff, he was having a vision. He was dreaming. He was dreaming. So, what? I mean, I am the living God. I mean, how powerful is that? So you're going to walk around all day thinking about I am the living God. And you're going to forgive. I heard a man say, forgive means to give for. Think about it. Have faith in God. That's 22. Isn't that amazing? Have faith in God. What does that mean? Have a conviction and be assured of that which you expect. For it is, it is the substance of that which you are looking for. Oh, so what am I looking for? The substance. Well, what is the substance? I am the substance. I get caught up in trying to get somebody to help me to do something. I don't need that. I am the substance. That which I expect. I have absolute confidence and assurance that God is the principle of that which is all good. And if I get my head off of trying to fix something, to get something, to do something, then that means God has done it. You know, that's as simple as that. And then 23, Mark 11:23, what did he say? Speak to the mountain. I remember when we first got to this full gospel church down in Michigan. And this man, we had these books, and one was by Kenneth Hagin. He said, you can have what you say. And it was like, look at what some of y'all are saying. And if he never spoke anything any clearer or any more right, that was it. What are you saying? When you are saying what God is, and when you are saying what you are in God, the thing is manifesting in your head. The thing that's manifesting is what? Peace. That's the key. You are a recipient. You desire peace. I'm trying to tell you, I don't care how much your heart is set on having this new house, these new cars, all this kind of stuff. You want peace. And when you want peace, you'll say, oh, wow. Everything I want, everything is an idea. And the ideas are already manifest. I'll get to that. And 24, does that what I'm receptive? I'm receptive. I can receive the idea as formed in my head. My heart generates this feeling, and I'm good. I can move on. I'm going to give you some examples of that. And then when the man says, forgive, I heard a man say, that means to give forth. Give up the illusion for the truth. That's forgiving. Not, oh, you know what, I'm sorry for what I did. Will you forgive me? Most people don't forgive people because they don't know what it means. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. And most people that say they're sorry, they're really not. They're really not. They're just saying what they know they need to say. You know, you gotta forgive me. I used to know a preacher used to say, yeah, I'm not perfect. No, yes you are. You're perfect. It's how you see what you think you are. That's the illusion. That's the sin that does so easily beset you. Over when he says, let's offer our body a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God. Remember, we said holy means hallowed. And hallowed means what? Set apart. He says, these people who are called by my name. What's my name? I am. That I am is set apart for a specific purpose. And what purpose is that? To glorify itself in us. So why am I here setting all these plans and setting all these goals and sitting around looking for them to come to pass? Because the understanding has not become perfectly clear yet that all we have to do is have faith in God. That means believe and be convicted that the principle of life has already been done. It is complete. Now, let me give you some examples of something that has happened to me within the week. I call it complete. A friend called me and told me about they fell and said he broke his finger, fell on the ice, and was really upset. He called me and what have you. I said, well, you sure you broke it? Yeah, I'm on my way to the doctor. I'm really frustrated. It really feels like it was dislocated, and if there's been somebody there, I said, you mean just pull it back out and snap it in place? He said, yeah. He said, but there was nobody, and I called the doctor, and they told me to come on over, and I got to get an x-ray, and they think it's broken, and they're going to put a splint on it. And I said, okay. I said, but just remember this. God did not break his finger, and you are in God. So therefore, God's finger is not broken. And so he was like, well, that's why I called you, man. I mean, I know you would tell me, you break down scripture. I said, well, all I'm trying to tell you is that my understanding of what God is God is all, everything. That means God is also you. And so he says, okay. He said, well, I tell you what, I get back in touch with you. He went over there, and they just put a splint on his finger. I said, a splint? Okay. They don't put splints on broken bones and a finger broken. They put a cast on it, but I ain't saying nothing. I just said, okay, let's just look at it like that. So then he called back, and he said, I'm back from the doctor. He said, I got, they put this splint on and what have you. And I said, bruh, let me tell you something. I said, something very special is going to happen to you. I forgot you told me. I said, something very pleasant is going to happen to you. I said, and it's going to be something that's completely out of the ordinary. I said, and you would not expect this kind of thing to happen. I don't know what it is, Don't ask me. All I know is just something that's telling me that right now. He said, okay. He went away. He called me back the next day and said another one of our friends was really concerned and hurt, didn't know what to do. He's got an irregular heartbeat. And they had to rush him to the hospital because he either passed out or I forget what happened, but he fell. And they called 911 and they rushed him to the hospital. And he said, man, I'm calling you. He said, I know. He said, he would have called you. I know he can't. So I said, all right. And he said, can you pray? I said, while you're talking, I feel that little buzz going on in my stomach. In fact, talking about it, I'm feeling it all over again right now. It's just a little burn that's going on that I know that I have faith that the principle of God does not have an irregular heartbeat and hurt itself. So I didn't hear from either one of them. Yesterday, I get a call from the guy who said, I'm going to get this splint taken off. And, man, he said, have you heard from Bob? I said, no. He said, okay. He said, I know he is concerned because he's got to go in today because they got to have, they're going to get together and they're going to try to see whether they've got to put a pacemaker in his heart or not, or what have you. And I said, oh, okay. He said he wasn't concerned. He said, but I could tell he was concerned. I said, well, bro, I said, I got that little feeling on the inside, so I'm just going to let that do the work. That's the Father within. It does the work. And so then he said, oh, okay. He said, well, let me stop. Let me tell you this before you go. He said, remember that day you told me that something out of the ordinary was going to happen? And I said, no, I don't remember any of that at all. He said, well, you did, and you told me exactly. You said something out of the ordinary was going to happen. He said, man, he said, this person who I never, ever would expect to call me and say anything good or nice or take any kind of responsibility for what has happened between the two of us, called me, asked me for forgiveness, told me they were sorry. They did not put into the relationship that I had put into it. And he said, and they just want to just be real good friends from now on and be able to just, have a real good relationship and move on forward. And he said, man, how could you know? I said, I didn't. The principle that has already worked out everybody's life. That's what was going on with Goldsmith. Somebody would call him. He knew the principle of life, had already worked it all out. He knew better than to sit around asking God to heal somebody. He knew better than that. I mean, the woman with the issue of blood said, if I could just touch his clothes, where did she get that idea from? The principle, it already had taken care of everything. Well, last night, I get a call from the brother that went to the hospital, and they were supposed to let him know whether he was going to get a pacemaker. He called me back. He said, Mike, he said, I want you to know, man, prayer works. I said, oh, yeah, I know, man. I know prayer works. So what's up? He said, Mike, he said, let me tell you something, man. I got down there to the doctor, and they did everything they were supposed to do. He said, and they said to me, you're not going to need a pacemaker, and we think we might be able to handle this with just some mild medication. And Then he said, you come back in May. He said, so I guess I'll just have to live with an irregular heartbeat. I said, how can God live with an irregular heartbeat, my brother? He said, man, I know what you're saying, man. I said, man, God does not have an irregular heartbeat. He said, that's right, and God is all there is. I said, that's right. I've never said that to him before in life, but he said, God, there ain't nothing but God. That's what he said. And I never said that to him at all. Now, before he went to the doctor to have the man look at his heart to see if he was going to need a pacemaker, while we were talking, I sent him this. It's Philippians chapter 4, verse 7. And it says, that's the one about the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will keep your heart and your mind through Christ Jesus. That's what that rose up on the inside of me, and I sent it to him. The peace of God that surpasses all understanding will keep your heart and your mind. And I said, bro, I just want you to be in the right state of mind when you go down there to see the doctor. And he came back with, man, he said, this is righteous, man. I said, yeah, there's only one way to think, and that is the right way. You see, things have to be done on the mental plane within. And then spirit brings out the visible forms of the harmony, the health through right-mindedness. When you are thinking right, the spirit is saying, I am the principle, and there is nothing here except righteousness. You are thinking in line with God. As ideas pass before the light, you know, that's what we said last week, you put something in front of a light, it casts a shadow. Well, you are the light, the Son of God, that the Spirit places the idea of what it is. You are receiving an idea. The image and likeness of God means to be able to communicate with. God, the principle, communicates the idea in front of the light, which you are, the Son of God, and it casts a shadow. But all that happens on the inside of you. You just happen to see it out here when you're not looking for it. In an hour that you think not, the sun returns. When you're not thinking about how something is going to happen, it just flows right on up into your spirit. I had totally forgotten that I had said that to one of my friends, and I wasn't even thinking about Bob at all. I wasn't thinking about it at all. I was just sitting around going, well, let's see what else is dumb on TV that I can look at. At least I can just kind of, you know, I was sitting there and the phone rings. And whatever I was looking at, I just hit pause. Thinking about things, imagining what it's like having these things, ideas now. Remember, when I say things, think ideas. Just sitting around thinking about these ideas is what Lillian DeWaters called visioning. And because you're sitting around thinking about it, this is generating feelings in the heart. The first thing, the idea that popped up in my head was, well, what if everybody around the world knew God? What if everybody on the planet knew God? That would be a manifestation of heaven within and a manifestation of heaven out here, wouldn't it? If everybody knew God, that'd just be perfect. How many people are sitting around going, it'd be great if everybody knew God? Not a whole lot of people are doing it. A whole lot of people are trying to pile up things. All good has already happened. God is the substance of all forms. God, Spirit, fills all space. Whatever appears to be the need, God is already there. And the apparent need is already happened. I got to recognize that when it appears to be something that is incomplete, how can there be incompleteness if God is complete and God is all? Where does my mind spend itself all day long? Trying to fix stuff, or is my mind on being kept through Christ Jesus, through this peace that surpasses all understanding? You see, there must be a recognition of the presence. Wherever evil is appearing, God, good, is right there. I don't care what it is. What was Adam and Eve looking at? They certainly, if they had looked at, what do you call this? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil, opposites, if they said, well, no, this can't be. This is like looking at an irregular heartbeat. This is like looking at a finger that's broken. This is like looking at sickness and disease. What is that? It does not exist in God. And if it doesn't exist in God, it doesn't exist anywhere. I told my buddy, I said, but you know what? I seemingly have come into that consciousness of pure, perfect health. Just little by little, it's just increasing. I said, but there's the other side where the prosperity side is just going. It's opening up like this. Because my mind is on, I need to have more. I have to get more. I have to do something to bring more in. How can you bring more in if you already have all? But the mind ain't on that all the time. The mind is on, but what about this bill? Like the woman I dealt with yesterday from the Comcast cable where we run the studio. What's going on with that? And doesn't it amaze you that when you call in and you're trying to, I don't know what they call that, tell them, trying to extend the time you got to make the payment. Please don't suspend my service. You're going through all of that, but you're talking to some guy who barely can understand English, can hardly speak English, and he's telling you got to give him all this money today, and then by the 14th you got to give all of the rest. And I said, does that make sense to you, man? I just got through telling you. All the time I'm talking to him, my head is sitting there going, what are you doing? Why are you fighting with this guy about something that you have? Because I ain't got it, man. I do not. Do I look like I got $530-something by the 14th, and I still got a house note to pay, and I still got this, and you know what I'm saying? And finally, I said, let me ask you something, man. He said, yes. I said, can you put me in touch with your collections department? Because I've been there before. He said, let me try. What you mean try? This your company. Well, he does something, and the music starts. And I said, well, either I'm disconnected or I don't know what's up. Finally, this lady comes on, and we start talking. And she said, how can I help you? And I'm, okay. And she says, I was going. And she said, I'll tell you what I can do. She said, I can take a payment today. I can erase this 14th because he got you set up to make the rest of it on the 14th. She said, I can give you all the way out to the 23rd. She said, and then don't panic if you don't have it by the 23rd because you'll get 6 more days after that, to the 29th. So I said, oh, okay. And she said, it's just something about, I don't know how she said it, but I said to her, ma'am, I said, I started going into that hard luck story. She said, well, we have to help you, Mr. Orr. And I said, okay, I could appreciate that. So then some kind of way she said something. Oh, I explained to her what we have, the recording studio and what have you. And she said, my son is a musician, and he said he's going to be famous. I said, well, tell him, I said, good luck with that. I said, but in the meantime, I said, how old is he? She said, he's 15. I said, oh, wow. And I started talking about Jamal. I said, my son, when he was young like that was what he was doing. I said, and my wife and I saved up, and we did everything we could, and we sent him to the Berklee College of Music. And she said, oh, wow, for real? And I said, yeah. Now I'm not talking to a bill collector. I'm not talking to a representative of a company. Now we're on the same level, and we're talking. It ends up with me sharing with her how we had done music that Al Green has recorded. Then it ends up that we're talking about how the music is on YouTube. She said, for real? I said, yes. I said, we didn't even put it on there. Other people put it on there. And we've been selling music and things. And she was like, oh, wow. She said, my husband was in a group. And what have you? She said, but he passed away when he was 28 years old. And I didn't want to say nothing because when she told me the name of the group, Fatal Endeavors, I was like, I didn't say nothing. I just said, oh, wow. And my son was but 2 years old when he passed away. And I said, oh, wow, that was 13 years ago. She said, I don't think any of his music is on YouTube. And I went on YouTube and I found some. Somebody had put it on there 13 years ago, 15 years ago. So I said, oh, wow, So then we're talking, and she said he was 28 years old. I said, ma'am, these 28 just keep pumping up in my experience. I said, my wife passed on November the 28th. She said, well, I don't mean to make it any worse for you, but my birthday is December the 28th. I'm like, Lord, Jesus, these 28 is 328. Every time I look around, and while I was talking to her, no, I was talking to Bob, but then 828 came up, and that Jamal always hit me with 828. Romans said all things work together for good. So we going through all of that. She said, let me tell you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to send you an email with my personal information on it. And if you ever get in this situation again, call this number and ask for me, and I am going to help you every time. She said, you have lifted my heart. In them crazy stories I'm telling you, I lifted your heart. My mind said, you don't know what the Spirit is doing in somebody when you're talking to them. You have no idea. Your job is to let that Spirit come through you. You are a transparency, and God is taking care of it. You see, wherever evil is appearing, God is already there. What did Jesus say? The fields are already white unto harvest. There is no waiting for situations to be fixed. You can't fix what's already fixed. Who can fix God? How do you fix God? God is right where the less than perfect appears to be. God is right there. There is no place else for God to be. Most of the world's appearances are illusions. Recognition of the presence is required. You have to always recognize that God is right there. Where or when we look at politicians, this popped in at the last minute. Anybody that's crooked in any field, everywhere we look, wherever somebody is crooked, we are the laborers that God has sent into the heart. Why? We are the ones to recognize the presence of God which will appear to make the change where needed. It's already done. We just have to keep our minds in this state by recognizing that there's nothing there but life. Recognizing the Spirit of the presence of God. Recognizing the Spirit of the vital presence, life presence. RSVP. Responde s'il vous plaît. Reply or respond if you please. God's will is done already. And that, if you think of yourself as a transparency that the Spirit is working through to bring forth its glory in your body or in all of your bodies, then you are on the righteous path, right-minded. It's already done. Amen. So it is.